The Arsenal injury crisis is real, and the Southampton game is just the beginning of a very tough road ahead. Let us be honest with you right now. Arsenal are in a tough spot. Not a disaster, not a meltdown, but a genuinely difficult moment where injuries are piling up, the title race is heating up, and the team that started this season looking like genuine contenders is now heading into one of the most important stretches of the campaign with a squad that is being held together with some duct tape and a prayer. But here is the thing about Arsenal. They always find a way to make things interesting. Whether that is a good interesting or a painful interesting, well, that is what we are all here to find out together. So let us start from the top and break down everything you need to know about what is going on at the Emirates right now, why the Southampton FA Cup quarter-final matters more than it looks, and what this all means for the weeks ahead. Grab a cup of tea. This one is worth reading slowly, where it all stands right now. Before we get into the lineup talk and the injury updates, let us just set the scene properly so everyone is on the same page. Arsenal are still in the Premier League title race with Manchester City. They are still in the FA Cup with a quarter-final against Southampton coming up. They are still in the Champions League by any measure. This is still a brilliant season. But seasons can turn very quickly when injuries strike at the wrong time. And right now, Arsenal are dealing with a situation where as many as 10 players are either confirmed out or are being assessed after the international break. 10 players, that is not a small problem. That is a squad management nightmare. So how did we get here and what happens next? The international break that hurt Arsenal. Every time international breaks come around, Arsenal fans hold their breath. And this one gave them every reason to be nervous. 3 Arsenal players came back from England duty with question marks hanging over them. Declan Rice and Bukayo Saka both left the England squad early and returned to Arsenal for what the club described as medical assessment. Nobody panicked immediately because neither return was described as anything serious at that point. But when you are talking about 2 of your most important players in your midfield and attack, even a question mark is enough to make the stomach drop a little. Then came the Noni Madueke situation, and that one stung a bit more. Madueke was having a fantastic game for England against Uruguay. Thomas Tuchel, the England manager, had specifically set the team up to get the most out of him. He described Madueke as electric before the injury happened. The Arsenal winger was causing problems. He was full of energy. He was looking like the difference maker that Tuchel needed him to be. And then a coming together with an opponent stopped everything. Madueke tried to carry on. He really did. But his body was not having it, and he was replaced by Jared Bowen before the first half was done. When he left the field, he was spotted leaving Wembley Stadium wearing a leg brace. That is never the image you want to see of a player you are relying on. Tuchel did not hide how he felt after the game. He said he was worried. He called Madueke a key player and a difference maker, and he was clearly frustrated that the injury had disrupted his plans for the match. From an Arsenal perspective, the concern is obvious. Madueke has become an important part of what Arteta is trying to do going forward, and losing him at this stage of the season would be a real blow. Now, the extent of all 3 injuries is still not fully clear at the time of writing, but that uncertainty itself is the problem. You cannot plan properly when you do not know who is going to be available. The longer injury list that was already there. Here is the thing that makes the Rice, Saka and Madueke situation even more complicated. Those 3 were added to an injury list that was already quite long before the international break even started. William Saliba is out. Let that sink in for a second. Your best centre-back, the man who has been absolutely dominant at the back for Arsenal over the past couple of seasons, is not available. If you were building your ideal Arsenal defensive lineup, Saliba is probably the first name on the team sheet. And he is not there. Gabriel is also out. So your first choice centre-back partnership is both unavailable. That is 2 of your starting defenders gone at the same time. Martin Odegaard is out. Your captain, your playmaker, the man who controls the tempo and rhythm of how Arsenal play, is missing. When Odegaard is not playing, Arsenal look like a different team. He is that important to how Arteta wants to set up. Eberechi Eze is out. Leandro Trossard is out. Mikel Merino is out. And Jurrien Timber, who has been one of the most consistent performers in the squad this season, is also sidelined with a groin injury he picked up during Arsenal's win over Southampton earlier in the campaign. That is before you even account for the uncertainty around Rice, Saka and Madueke. So when people say Arteta has 10 injury concerns, they are not exaggerating. This is a real situation that requires real solutions. Can Timber make it back for Southampton? Here is one piece of potentially good news. Timber is reportedly targeting the Southampton FA Cup quarter-final as his return date. The groin injury he has been dealing with is not believed to be too serious, and the Dutch defender is hopeful that he will not have to miss any more games after this short spell out. That would be a significant boost for Arteta. Timber has been one of those players this season who just gets on with things quietly and brilliantly. He has started 37 of the 44 games he has been available for. 4 of the 7 matches he did not start in were domestic cup ties, and he was only an unused substitute once in the entire campaign. That tells you everything about how much Arteta trusts him and how much the team needs him. If Timber comes back fit and ready against Southampton, it gives the defence a bit more flexibility and quality. But even with him back, Arsenal are still missing a lot of the players who would normally be automatic starters. So the big question is this: can Arteta put together a team that is good enough to beat Southampton in the FA Cup and keep momentum going, even with all of these players missing? What the Arsenal lineup might look like, let us talk about the team Arteta is likely to put out against Southampton, because it is genuinely interesting to think about. In goal, David Raya comes back in after the Carabao Cup final, where Kepa Arrizabalaga had a difficult afternoon and Arsenal lost 2-0 to Manchester City. Raya returns as the number 1. That feels like the right call. Kepa was given his chance in the cup final and it did not go well. Raya is the main man and he steps back in. At the back, Arsenal actually have some decent options, despite the absences of Saliba and Gabriel. Riccardo Calafiori, Piero Hincapié, Christian Mosquera and Ben White could all be involved if they come through their international games without any further problems. None of them are the world-class pairing of Saliba and Gabriel, but they are capable defenders who can do a job in an FA Cup quarter-final against Southampton. The midfield is where things get more complicated. If Rice is not available, Arteta cannot afford to rotate too much there. Martin Zubimendi looks set to start, and he could be joined by Christian Norgard and Kai Havertz in a midfield 3. That is actually not a bad midfield. Zubimendi is composed and tidy in possession. Norgard brings physicality and energy, and Havertz offers a real goal threat from midfield as well as defensive work. There is quality in that unit, even if it is not the first choice setup. Further forward is where things get genuinely thin. Without Saka, without Madueke, without Eze, without Trossard, the wide options are limited. Gabriel Martinelli on one flank is obvious. He is one of the first names on the team sheet when fit. But on the other side, the options are more limited. This is where Max Dowman comes in. The young Arsenal player could be in line for a surprise start on the right side of that attack. If you are not familiar with Dowman yet, this could be his moment to introduce himself to the wider Arsenal fan base. Getting a start in an FA Cup quarter-final is no small thing, and it would be a real test of whether he is ready to step up when the team needs him. Up front, Gabriel Jesus could come in for Victor Gyökeres. With a tough schedule ahead, it makes sense to give Gyökeres a bit of a rest when possible. And Jesus is a capable option who works hard and brings movement to the forward line, even if he is not the same goal threat. The possible lineup then looks something like this: Raya in goal, White, Hincapié, Mosquera, Calafiori across the back 4, Norgard, Havertz and Zubimendi in midfield, Dowman and Martinelli on the flanks, Jesus up front. Is that the strongest Arsenal team? No. Is it a team that can beat Southampton in the FA Cup? Absolutely yes. Why the Southampton game matters more than people realise. You might be thinking, it is Southampton. They are not exactly the most dangerous team Arsenal will face this season. And you would be right in a purely footballing sense. On paper, Arsenal should be more than capable of getting through this tie, even with a weakened squad. But the Southampton game matters for reasons that go beyond just winning or losing. First, momentum. Arsenal have just lost the Carabao Cup final to Manchester City. That was a painful afternoon at Wembley. Losing a cup final always stings, and losing it 2-0 means there was no real argument about the result. Getting back out there and winning, even against lower opposition, matters for confidence and momentum. Second, fitness. With so many players coming back from injury or being assessed, the Southampton game gives Arteta a chance to see where his squad is actually at before the really big games arrive. How does Timber look if he comes back? How are Rice and Saka moving? Getting those answers in a game that is winnable is far better than getting them in a Champions League quarter-final or a Premier League clash against Manchester City. Third, the FA Cup itself. People sometimes forget how much the FA Cup still means. It is one of the most historic trophies in English football, and getting to a quarter-final is a real achievement. Arsenal have a genuine chance of going all the way this season, and walking away from that opportunity because of injuries would be a real shame. Winning this tie keeps that dream alive. And fourth, the psychological message it sends to the players, to the fans, and to everyone watching, that Arsenal can handle adversity, that they are not a team that falls apart when things get tough, that Arteta has built something deep enough to cope with injuries and keep going, That matters more than any individual result. The brutal April that is coming. Once the Southampton game is done, the schedule does not get any easier. In fact, it gets significantly harder. Arsenal have Premier League matches against Bournemouth, Manchester City and Newcastle United still to come. The Manchester City game in the league is going to be one of the most important matches of the entire season. If Arsenal want to win the title, they almost certainly need to take something from that game. They are also still in the Champions League with a quarter-final coming up. And if they get through that, there could be a semi-final as well. And if they win the Southampton FA Cup tie, there are more rounds of that competition to navigate too. We are talking about a potential run of fixtures that could decide whether this Arsenal season ends with trophies or heartbreak. And they are heading into it with a squad that is currently not at full strength. This is the moment that separates good teams from great ones. The ability to manage injuries, trust the squad depth and keep performing when the pressure is at its absolute highest. Can Arsenal do it? What Arteta has done well this season. It is worth stepping back for a second and recognising just how good Arteta has been this season despite everything. Arsenal have been genuinely competitive on multiple fronts. The Premier League title race with Manchester City is real and it is not over. They reached the Carabao Cup final. They are in the FA Cup quarter-final. They are in the Champions League quarter-final. For a club that was in the bottom half of the Premier League not too many years ago, this is a remarkable achievement. Arteta has built a squad with genuine depth and quality. Yes, 10 injury concerns is a lot, but the fact that Arsenal can even name a credible lineup for Southampton without most of their best players says something about the work that has been done over the past few years. He has brought in players like Zubamendi, Hincapié, Mosquera and Norgard who can step in when needed. He has developed young players who are ready to take their chance. He has created a culture where the team believes in itself even when things are difficult. The Carabao Cup final loss hurt, of course it did, but one bad day does not undo everything that has been built. Arsenal are still a team that believes it can win the Premier League title and go deep in the Champions League. That belief is real and it is earned. The questions every Arsenal fan is asking right now. There are a few questions that everyone in the Arsenal community wants answered over the coming days and weeks. How serious are the injuries to Rice, Saka and Madueke? This is the big one. If all three are out for an extended period, Arsenal's already thin squad becomes even thinner at the worst possible time. If they are minor issues and all three are back within a week or two, the picture looks a lot better. We need clarity on this as soon as possible. Is Timber going to be fit for Southampton? He has targeted the game for his return and the injury is not believed to be serious. But football injuries have a habit of being unpredictable. Fingers crossed that one goes smoothly. Is Max Dowman ready for a start? This is an exciting question actually. Young players waiting for their chance do not often get it in games as important as an FA Cup quarter-final. If Dowman starts and takes his opportunity, it could be a moment that defines his Arsenal career. What does he do with it? Can Arsenal get through April in one piece? This is the overarching question. 4 or 5 weeks from now, we will know a lot more about what this Arsenal season is going to look like. The title, the Champions League, the FA Cup, all of it is still possible. But April is when we find out whether this squad is truly built for the biggest moments. And finally, can Arteta solve the goalkeeper question before it becomes a bigger issue? Kepa had a tough time in the Carabao Cup final. Raya comes back in and that feels right. But the fact that there is a conversation to be had about it at all is something to watch. A message for the Olivia's Sports Arsenal community. If you have been following Arsenal this season, you know what a ride it has been. The highs have been genuinely thrilling. The lows have been frustrating. And right now we are in one of those moments where patience and faith are required. 10 injury concerns is scary. There is no point pretending otherwise. But this is also a squad that has shown all season long that it has more to offer than just its starting 11. Players who have been waiting for their chance are about to get it. And if they take it, this moment could end up being a turning point rather than a setback. The Southampton FA Cup quarter-final is a chance to win, to rebuild confidence and to show everyone that Arsenal are not going anywhere. After the pain of the Carabao Cup final, Arteta's side needs a response. And the best response is always the same. Go out, work hard, play well and win. The title race is alive. The Champions League dream is alive. The FA Cup is alive. Arsenal are alive. And if you know anything about this club, you know that is when they are at their most dangerous. Stay with us here at Olivia's Sports Arsenal as we continue to bring you all the latest updates, analysis and reactions as the story unfolds. This season is far from finished. In fact, it feels like it is only just getting started. Come on, you Gunners.